Takumi was just a chill guy until he was accidentally East Kaida, so a goddess grants him cheat skills to make up for the mistake. However, when he discovers he can create or destroy anything he wants, he becomes the strongest alchemist and claps everyone. Story kicks off with Takumi getting spirited away to the divine realm by a hot stepmommy goddess named Nolan, who immediately apologizes because he was summoned by mistake. He explains that the summoning spell randomly picks heroes from a list, but since he wasn't even on the list, he would be mistreated by the Holy Sidonia Empire. They found out. Hearing this, Takumi asked to be sent back to Earth. But Nolan reveals he doesn't have a physical body to return to, and his only option is to become a resident of another nation. However, she promises to grant him her blessing so he can protect himself. With that, Nolan gathers every stat that'll help his course and shoves it into his soul, before sending him to the continent of Asgard. Once he lands, Takumi sees his reflection in a river and realizes he's now hotter than all your girlfriends combined. He then checks his stats and notices his strong aptitude for magic. So he plays around with a few flashy Teemo Avatar-style spells to look tough. Later, while he's looking around, he finds a log of wood and uses his workmanship skills to carve it into a spear. All of a sudden, a girl named Molly runs to him, begging for help because a rabbit monster is chasing her. Just then, a giant rabbit appears, and Takumi starts shaking in his boots, because this is his first encounter of the monster. However, when it attacks, he stabs it with his spear and eats the rabbit, which levels up his combat skill. Molly is grateful to him for saving her, so she offers to take him to her village as a thank you. A while later, Takumi arrives at the bored village and is welcomed with open arms for rescuing Molly. When he asks if he can stay for some days, the villagers agree and even offer to build him a house. Much to his shock, next morning, Takumi is all settled in his new home, and it's properly furnished thanks to the handy skills he got from Nolan. After settling into his new home, he brings some metal ores from a nearby mine, and he starts using alchemy to purify them into blocks. A few hours later, Molly finds him lying weak on the floor because he's used too much mana. When he regains himself, Martha, Molly's mom, schools him for pushing himself too far, while Banga, Molly's father, gives him a healing potion to replenish his mana. Over the days, he purifies various metals and turns them into cookware, which helps level up his alchemy skill. He also joined the village blacksmith and uses his magic to help him craft a weapon, which increases his level even further. One day he asks Binger for some potions and uses the herbs he previously gathered to upgrade them into advanced potions. When he finishes, he wanders into the woods and purposely eats a toxic herb so he can heal himself to unlock his poison resistance skill. Before he can celebrate, a huge armored boar bursts out of the bushes, and Takumi becomes terrified at its sight. He grabs his spear on instinct, but the moment the boar charges, he gets yeeted like yesterday's garbage. After dragging himself back up, he tries blasting it with magic, only to realize he's gonna need to hit harder on the side. He finds an injured spider behind him that tries to defend him, but it gets overwhelmed, leaving Takumi with no options. As a last resort, Takumi bets his sacks on using alchemy on the boar's head, which decomposes it upon contact. After pulling himself back up, Takumi heals the poison spider because she was previously trying to help him, but the act grants him the tame skill, which will allow him to have the poison spider as his pet. Takumi is skeptical at first about taming the spider, since he doesn't want his sausage to turn into Spider-Man by morning. But he quickly changes his mind because he finds the spider cute. He then names it Maple, which causes her to evolve and regrow her damaged limb. That evening, Takumi returns to the village with the giant boar's carcass and decides to share the meat with everyone. They feast. Nolan watches everything from the divine realm and smiles because Takumi is enjoying himself. Just then, another being arrives and asks why she sent Takumi a full year into the past, but Nolan casually insists she had no particular reason. A few days later, Takumi wakes up and finds himself covered in Maple's webs. When he scolds Maple for it, she says she did it because he's been busy making potions lately and hasn't given her any attention. Takumi feels bad about this and decides that he'll play with her today. So she gets excited and starts jumping on him. However, that's when Martha enters the room, wondering if Takumi is about to get freaky with a spider. Seeing her reaction, Takumi tries to explain himself, but Martha ignores him and drools over the spider silk littered everywhere. while later she uses the spider silk to make a garment. And all the ladies are excited to get their hands on it. When Takumi notices their mood and asks what's up, Martha tells him that spider silk is a big deal, and only nobles get their hands on it. She then begs Maple to produce more spider silk, and Maple agrees, even ignoring a chance to play with Takumi. Later on, Takumi meets Boban, who gives him a nicely fitted body armor and boots, since he knows Takumi will be leaving the village very soon. To expand his trade, he also tells Takumi about a trader from Bolton City and reveals that he's already made arrangements for Takumi to ride on the trader's carriage. Takumi thanks them for the kind gesture, but as he exits the room, he meets Martha going off to throw away a rabbit's gut. When asked why, she says the village doesn't have the means to process the meat, so Takumi decides to purify the meat himself. Seeing this, Martha figures he can use light magic, but she warns him against revealing it in the big city, because only a few people can use it. The following week, Takumi spends most of his time developing the village, as a way to show appreciation for all they've done for him. A day after he finishes, Papik arrives at the village, and is stunned to see Takumi donating high-quality healing potions. He becomes interested in the potions, but waits in the carriage so Takumi can say his goodbyes. As the villagers bid farewell to Takumi, Martha arrives and presents him with a neatly sewn garment, made from spider silk, realizing that all the girls in the village are behind the garment. Takumi thanks them for it and promises to treasure it. After that, he sets off for Papet and meets 3 adventurers, Heath Rail and an alopecia having dude named Booger, all of whom are guarding Papet for the trip. After they introduce themselves, Heath remarks that the trip is boring and wishes for a monster attack so he can get some action. But Takumi doesn't vibe with this. Rail notices Takumi tightly holding a bag and asks if something precious is in it. So Takumi replies that it contains a poison spider. Hearing this shocks Rail, and he creeps in to see what the spider looks like. But Maple senses him and attacks him. Seeing this, Keith laughs and tells Rail he deserves it, because he was infringing on the spider's privacy. On top of that, Maple takes a liking to Booger, which makes Rail jealous while they argue. Payback tells Takumi he's interested in buying his healing potions if he has more in stock, and Takumi looks forward to doing business with him. Suddenly, Payback stops the carriage, and the adventurers at the back realize that they are under attack by goblins. As the goblins draw closer, Heath and the others exit the carriage to fight, while Pepe almost wets himself, trying to fake composure to make Takumi feel comfortable. About 2 minutes in, Heath and the others successfully take out the goblins, and they continue their journey with Pepe. About 3 days later, they arrive in Bolton City, and Takumi gets excited, because it's his first time in a place like this. As he joins Heath and the others at the Adventurers Guild, he has to be registered in the Alchemist section. But the receptionist tells him there are no alchemists, and he'll have to register as an adventurer instead. After doing that, Takumi meets Paypick and gets paid for supplying him with healing potions. Hello, Paypick is underpaying him since he's new to the business. The money looks big to Takumi, and he begins to wonder if Paypick has ulterior motives. However, he snaps out of it when Paypick recommends that he live in a house with a workshop, so he'll have enough space for his production. At first, Takumi refuses because he doesn't have enough money to buy a big house, so Paypick insists he rent one instead. He recommends a place and sends his assistant to lead Takumi to it. Getting there, Takumi is flustered because it's a mansion, and also because the rent is cheaper than your OnlyFans subscription. It makes him wonder if there's something sinister about the place, but the assistant insists that everything is perfect. On the way back, Takumi notices the stench in the city and asks about it. So the assistant tells him it's from the sewage. Apparently nobles use magical, purifying devices to treat sewage from their mansions, but those magical devices aren't used in the city's sewers because they're rare and expensive. The following day, Takumi moves into his new house and spends the whole morning crafting a magical toilet. When he finishes, he overhears Pepek screaming in the sitting room and dashes over to see what's up there. He finds Pepek covered in maple spider silk and yells at Maple for doing that, but he's shocked to see that Pepek is enjoying himself because the spider silk is comforting. After that, Pepe excuses himself to use the restroom, but about 2 minutes in, he storms out asking what type of sorcery the toilet is. So Takumi explains that he added a magical device to the toilet that helps break down poop, which makes Pepe wonder whether he can use light magic. At first, Takumi hesitates to admit it because Martha warned him against it, but he tells the truth and begs Paper to keep his gifts a secret. Paper agrees, and since he's a businessman, he begs Takumi to make like 100 more toilets so he can sell them. Although the number scares Takumi, he agrees to do it so long as he gets the materials. But Pepek realizes Takumi will need more hands and suggests he contract a slave. Bound to secrecy, he emphasizes this because he doesn't want Takumi's secret of possessing light magic to get out after all. If the church finds out, he'll be exploited and used for profit. Hearing this, Takumi wonders if it's okay to mass-produce the toilet. So Pepek assures him his identity will be kept a secret because he has someone to handle that. He then insists on getting a slave, but Takumi refuses because he isn't comfortable with it, and insists on doing everything himself. However, when he receives a notification from the guild urging him to pick up a quest before a deadline, he realizes he'll need all the help he can get and agrees to get a slave. When he arrives at the slave company with Pepek, a blonde-haired slave underestimates him and tells him to scram, since he's built like expired yogurt, ignoring that Takumi joins Pepek inside the company and is introduced to a petite hottie named Nolan, the lady in charge of the slave business. As their meeting starts, Nolan assures him that in this city, slave rights are protected. Both parties are forbidden from causing life-threatening harm to one another. She also adds that a slave is forbidden from sharing information about their owner with others, which makes Takumi realize that having a slave isn't a bad thing at all. Peppa insists on getting a war slave for Takumi, because they're the kind that can't be freed without their master's permission. When Mulan curiously asks why, Takumi explains that he needs someone to manage his mansion and keep his business private. Hearing this, Mulan realizes he's basically requesting a housemaid and a bodyguard. So she suggests getting 2 slaves for the roles. The first slave she brings is Maria, who she reveals was kidnapped by bandits when she was young and has no family left. Takumi gets interested in her and asks if she's cool with managing a mansion, and she replies that she's good with it. Her response excites Takumi, because he thought a cute girl like that would have many takers and wouldn't want to be stressed so much. But the compliment makes Maria turn red. She insists that housekeeping is the only thing she can do, and begs him not to develop plot with her. Every night, however, Takumi freaks out and reminds her that clapping her isn't in the job description. After that, Mulan approves their contract, but reveals that she doesn't have any war slaves available to serve as Takumi's bodyguard. As Maria reminds her that there's a war slave named Sophia, Mulan tells her to shut it and get her belongings ready. As she leaves, Takumi asks, "What's up with Sophia?" So Mulan reveals that she has issues. Despite that, Takumi curiously asks to see this Sophia for himself, so Mulan leads him to her. Getting there, he realizes that Sophia is the chick who roasted him when he first got here, but he's shocked to learn that she's been in captivity for 50 years. She also has a large scar on her left ear, limbs with impaired movement, and a curse that inhibits her magic. To be sure, Takumi uses his powers to peek at her status, and gets flustered when he realizes she's an overpowered war elf, only nerfed by a curse when he insists on forming a contract with her. She reminds him that she's useless, but Takumi assures her he'll do something about her condition. But that settled, Nulan proceeds with the contract and makes it official by sealing them with magic. Once she's done, Maria and Sophia pledge their loyalty to Takumi, while Takumi thanks them for agreeing to follow him. Hearing his response, Sophia tells him to stop acting too polite to her because she's a slave, while Nuwan smiles because Sophia has finally gotten a good master. Around noon, Takumi arrives at his mansion, and both girls are shocked when Maple jumps on top of him, since they think she wants to eat him. However, Takumi introduces Maple as his pet, and it leaves Sophia completely stunned. Inside, Takumi gives Sophia and Maria a tour of the mansion and shows them to their rooms. When he's done, Sophia joins Maria for a warm bath in the bathroom, and she starts getting suspicious about Takumi because he didn't include his personal details in his contract with her. After the girls finish from the bathroom, they find that Takumi has already made dinner for them, and it makes Maria feel bad because she's meant to be the one cooking, while she crashes out calling herself a messy toilet. Takumi tells her not to sweat it, because she'll start handling the housework from the next day. As for Sophia, she finds it weird that Takumi wants her to eat at the same table with him. Takumi insists he's cool with it and would be happy to eat together. The following day, Takumi receives a package from Payback and stops at a church on his way home. Here he kneels and prays to Nolan, thanking her for all her blessings, but questioning why she was against Sidonia, when they're the ones controlling the religion for this kingdom. The next thing he knows, he gets spirited away to the divine realm, and Nolan tells him she has nothing to do with Sidonia and their Church of Divine Light. She explains that there are two religions, one from the Church of Creation and the other from the Church of Divine Light. The Church of Creation always worshipped Lady Nolan from the start, while the Church of Divine Light was created later, along with a god that doesn't actually exist. Back when the Church of Divine Light was founded, the Holy Sidonia Empire used forceful means to spread the influence of the church, which later opposed the Church of Creation. Currently, Nolan doesn't want anything to do with either side, and swears not to interfere with humans. She then tells Takumi that his tutorial for this world is nearly over, and he should expect to run into people who might want to harm him. Hearing this makes Takumi realize that she's been behind his recent luck of meeting nice people, and that it's up to him to determine how his life will play out. Meanwhile, a year into the future, Elizabeth has managed to convince the summoned heroes to train non-stop to save their world, and Connie refuses to join them because she doesn't like violence and also feels that Elizabeth is up to no good. Back in the present, Takumi arrives home and trips on the floor. But when Sophia tries to help carry his package, he hurriedly hides it in his item box. Seeing this makes Sophia get more suspicious of him, especially because the package was wrapped with a magical material, so she decides to keep an eye on him while he's in his workshop. About 5 minutes in, she sees Takumi slitting his wrist, and hears him saying he did something to Maria. Hearing this makes her assume that Maria's life is in danger, so she barges into the room to stop him. However, she becomes weak and falls to the ground, and Takumi wonders what's up with her. When he tries healing her, he realizes her body is resisting his magic because of her curse. He takes her inside and gets rid of it. That evening, Sophia wakes up and is shocked when she realizes that she's healed, and that her magic is back. Once Maria tells her that Takumi healed her, she heads outside to get some explanation about what happened earlier. Takumi tells her he was only trying to upgrade his light magic skill, and it ended up helping him remove her curse. Sophia sheds tears as she hears this, and then proceeds to kneel and swear her lifelong loyalty to Takumi. The following day, Takumi heads to the library, and wonders why only 4 books on alchemy exist in the kingdom. While he wonders why alchemy has died out so much in recent times, he figures it's because alchemy books are based on the writings of an ancient, magic civilization, and it's thanks to Nolan's blessings that he can understand these languages. Later that morning, while Maria and Sophia help him mass-produce magical toilets, he reveals he'll take a break and go on an adventure to explore the country. He also adds that he'll take Sophia with him as his bodyguard, while Maria will manage things at the mansion. Thinking about it, Maria realizes she can't stay in the mansion alone, so she begs Takumi to take her along. At first, Takumi is hesitant, but when he peeks at her status to see if she can fight, he realizes she isn't bad at all and decides to take her. Sophia approves of it and promises to show Maria a thing or two in combat. So Takumi figures it's time he makes weapons and armor for them. When asked, Sophia says she'd like a 6-meter-long sword, while Maria says she wants 2 short blades that are 6 inches thick. With this in mind, Takumi spends the whole night forging weapons that'll meet the girl's taste. When he's done, he pictures Maria as a hot assassin with twin blades on her thighs, and ends up losing all the blood left in his brain. As he regains himself, he recalls he needs to work on the girl's body armor, but wonders how we'll get their curvy measurements. On second thought, he spawns 2 dolls he made from the girls using his Appraisal X skill, and gets too excited because he gets to sample their plots. A few days later, he comes up with a perfect outfit for Maria and Sophia, and to their shock, it fits as if you measured them directly. When they ask how you got their measurements, Maple almost blurts out the doll thingy, but Takumi covers her mouth and comes up with a good lie. After that, Sophia tests her sword and likes it. But when it's Maria's turn, Takumi starts smiling because he got a cedar thigh. He then gives them a mana-infused ring to help them use their magic effectively, and they thank him for it. Afterward, they all head to the Adventurers Guild, where Sophia and Maria get registered as F-ranked adventurers, while Takumi checks out the notice board to pick a quest. Some thirsty dudes arrive and try to rouse Maria and Sophia into following them. One of them, built like a lizard spawn, calls Takumi a weak bum. while another with a mutated stomach calls Takumi his mother's worst mistake. As the dude tries to lay hands on Sophia's milkers, Takumi stands up to him meanwhile. Deep down, he's terrified like crazy. Eventually, he summons the courage to talk back at the dudes, calling them worthless bullies, and it makes one of them try to punch Takumi. However, Takumi hardens his upper body with magic as he sees the punch coming, and it makes the unlucky dude scream in pain. Before things can get worse, Brack the guildmaster shows up and tells Takumi's side to meet him in his office. There he asks Takumi what he did to the dude who attacked him. So he explains that he coated his upper body with diamond, using alchemy. Hearing this, Hans suggests that Takumi and his party members be promoted, and Barak agrees, hinting that it'll prevent idiots from making a move on him. When Takumi insists that the girls just got registered, Hans tells him to pick up a quest so the girls can rank up easily. And he agrees. That afternoon, Takumi leads the way into the woods, on a mission to exterminate goblins and gather Mario herbs. On the way, Maple provides recon support and alerts them of 2 goblins closing in on their position. Immediately, Sophia charges forward and slays them, while Takumi and Maria attack a pair of goblins charging behind them. As time goes on, they slaughter goblins in the hundreds, and Takumi wonders why they are encountering such numbers. Sophia figures it's because there's a goblin camp lying around, and there might be a general among them. Takumi freaks out when he hears this, because goblin generals are usually C rank, and it normally takes the combined effort of 5 parties to defeat one. Despite that, Sophia insists they close in on the camp because she believes they stand a chance of winning if they combine their magic. Before they proceed with the mission, Maple signals that she's about to evolve, so Takumi opens his pocket dimension and allows her in. The fact that he has a pocket dimension shocks the girls, but Takumi scoffs and says he created it when he upgraded his space-time magic. Realizing they don't have Maple's recon assistance, they creep gently into the forest until they locate the goblin settlement. Seeing them in the hundreds, Takumi almost soils his pants because he can't face all of them. But Sophia suggests they join their magic together and roast the goblins at once. After roasting them, the goblin general arrives with 2 goblin knights, so Sophia charges at them to fight. All the while, one of the knights takes Takumi by surprise, but Takumi manages to defeat it. A few hours later, he and the girls sit exhausted at the guild, while Hans is shocked by the number of goblins they defeated in a day. He takes them to see Barak, who is equally shocked, but everyone's stunned when an evolved Maple shows up from Takumi's pocket dimension. As a result of Takumi's party's feat, Maria and Sophia are promoted to F rank, while Takumi is promoted to E rank. Later on, Maria meets Takumi and asks for spare cloth scraps to use as undergarments. Hearing this, Takumi draws a sample of what it will look like and offers to make a piece for her and Sophia. Just then, Papek shows up to see him, and it turns out that the Lord of Bolton, Marcus Godwin, wants to see Takumi because of the magic toilets he's been making. At the Marquis of Domain, the noble thanks Takumi for the magical toilet he invented, because it's helping with the sewage problem, then bows to show respect, and it makes Takumi feel uncomfortable. However, Godwin warns Takumi to take care of himself, because it will be a great loss for the kingdom if he were to pass away, especially because the Holy Empire of Cydonia might start coming for him. Soon after the meeting, Takumi sits mentally drained at his mansion, tired of the pressure from Cydonia. While at it, Maple hands him some spider silk for the silky garments he wants to make, and he gets to work immediately. It takes him about 3 days to make a pair, and on the last day, he almost passes out when he hands them to Sophia and Maria. When the girls thank him for it, he casually tells them to try them on for him to see, but he begins acting defensive, insisting he doesn't want to see their plots. At the mansion, Takumi proudly presents his newly created refrigerators to the girls. He allows Maria to choose one and decides to take the rest to pay back, so he can get started on his next project. When Sophia asks about the new project, he tells her he wants to upgrade their equipment with mithril and adamantite, since they'll eventually travel and encounter stronger monsters. At the guild, Hans tells Takumi the metals he needs are rare, and most blacksmiths in Bolton can't even handle them, except for dwarves from the kingdom of Namstal. Hans suggests it would be faster to mine the ores directly from a city called Horus and synthesize them with alchemy, though it'll consume massive amounts of mana. Hans explains that only blacksmith guild members can enter the mine, But if Takumi takes a quest to defeat the monsters in the mine shafts, he'll be allowed inside. Takumi thinks this is perfect, since he can fill his quest quota at the same time. Then Barak suddenly appears, sensing an opportunity. He mentions the guild has been running low on Trint wood, since most adventurers are busy hunting black buffalo, and Trints live in the Forest of Death, which is along the way to Horus. Takumi agrees to collect the wood, and Barak also mentions a dwarf blacksmith named Gambo, who needs to be escorted to Horus. Takumi starts wondering if he's being exploited, noting he's never done an escort quest before, and asks if the Leon Fine party can't handle it. Barak tells him they're on another quest, so Takumi's stuck with the job. Enz explains it will take 7 days with a normal carriage, or half the time with monster horses. But all the monster horses are currently rented out. Riel suddenly appears, and Barak asks if he's done with his quest already. Riel mentions they took down a black buffalo, and he's just bringing it back before it spoils. He notes there have been more advanced monsters popping up recently, which means escort missions are getting tougher. But Barak points out the rewards will be better too. Riel prepares to head back to his party, but Takumi stops him and asks him to stay at his place for the night. They make a stop to visit Pipek, who offers to lend them one of his monster horses for the trip, but asks to buy some rare ores when Takumi returns. He also mentions he wants more refrigerators because they sold out, like Ice Spice concert tickets. Meanwhile, Sophia waits at the house for Takumi. Noting he's running late, Takumi and Riel head back, after an unsuccessful search for a blacksmith who can handle the metals. But Riel suddenly senses danger approaching. Riel sees a cloaked figure approaching, and realizing he's not prepared to fight, he grabs Takumi and tries to run. The figure knocks Riel down, but it's actually Sophia who thought Riel was targeting. Takumi is about to reverse East Kai Riel, but Takumi quickly stops her, and they both apologize to Riel for the misunderstanding. They make it back to the house, and Riel is surprised to see Maple's evolved form, but Maple immediately rejects him. Riel starts crying that Takumi has a harem while he's still single, but Takumi clarifies they aren't his girlfriends. Hearing this, Riel asks Sophia and Maria out, but they both turn him down, reminding him that he's not the main character. While Riel enjoys a bath, Takumi tells the others about the trip to Horus, and they decide to leave in 3 days. They get the carriage from Payback and meet their client Gambo, then set off to Horus at the guild. Hans and Barak receive a message from the Horus branch, warning that monsters in the Forest of Death have become unusually active, making them worry about Takumi's group. Meanwhile, Pepe meets with Godwin's butler, who mentions the king was extremely pleased with receiving a toilet as tribute. The butler says that although the sewage problem is being resolved, word has been spreading fast, and Sidonia will likely hear about it soon. Takumi's crew reaches the Forest of Death, and they leave Gambo behind in a protective barrier. While they hunt trains, Sophia explains they can find trains by sensing their mana, and points one out, so Takumi charges at it while the girls provide backup. He takes it down, but they get surrounded by more trains. They use magic to blast multiple trains at once, but they encounter a massive elder train that regenerates its roots instantly when destroyed. Sophia says they need to destroy the main body with a single attack, so Takumi enchants his sword with flames. Sophia clears a path and he delivers a finishing blow to the elder. Trent the tree drops several miracle apples, and when Sophia mentions they're extremely rare, Takumi stores them in his item box. They finally reach Horus and visit the guild, where Gambo tells Takumi he'll need to take a quest to exterminate iron moles. To access the mine, as they head into the mine and start digging, Takumi finds high-quality adamantite. The mine suddenly shakes, and a massive iron mole bursts through the wall. The girls prepare to fight, but Takumi uses light magic to paralyze the mole, and then they easily finish it off. When Gambo asks what Takumi did, he simply explains that iron moles live in the dark and can't handle sudden light exposure. Maria starts crying about not contributing, but Takumi wonders why they want to fight more monsters, so they safely mine all the ores they need and return to Bolton. Tambo teaches Takumi how to work with mithril and adamantite, and Takumi forges a mithril knife enchanted with fire. After working for a week, he crafts new equipment for Sophia and Maria and enchants it with elemental magic. He mentions he enchanted his own gear with agility, but when he tries to show off, he moves so fast that he crashes into a wall. Like a Looney Tunes character, losing all his aura, the girls test their enchantments, And Sophia tells Takumi she would sacrifice her life for him. She asked him to make her a shield so she can protect him better. But Takumi tells her to cherish her own life. Nolan watches from above, feeling happy. And she sees a vision of the summoned heroes with bloodied swords. 1 year into the future, Akira and Yamato are fully trained by the Empire. As the Emperor prepares to send them on their first mission, to the Kingdom of Sander back in the present, Takumi finishes Sophia's shield, but is completely drained from pouring so much mana into it. Sophia wishes he had someone to help in the workshop so he wouldn't keep overworking himself. Meanwhile, rumors about the kingdom using poop purification magic finally reached the Cydonia Empire, so they send a veiled threat to King Barkula, announcing an incoming messenger. The messenger states that light magic is a sacred gift from their goddess, bestowed upon the Church of Divine Light. He demands that the king hand over the purification magic, circles and patterns immediately. But the king just laughs. He tells the messenger to make their own magic circles. If they want them, the messenger insists that using sacred purification magic on toilets is blasphemy. So the king should hand over the creator for judgment. King Barkulus simply refuses, so the messenger threatens to recall all the Church of Light priests from the kingdom, but the king tells them to enjoy their self-deportation. Pepe later meets Takumi and fills him in on the drama. Takumi wonders if dissing the Sidonian messenger was wise, but Pepe assures him everything will be fine. He explains there are two major religions, Church of Creation, which worships Nolan, and the Church of Divine Light, which recognizes Anna, unlike the Church of Creation. The Church of Divine Light priests charge ridiculous fees for their services. While Takumi is thinking of how to exit all the drama, Pepek reveals he offered samples of Takumi's toilets and refrigerators to the king, who liked them so much, he's invited Takumi for a personal meeting. Takumi tells Sophia and Maria about the royal capital visit, and they agree to join him. He mentions they'll leave in a week, and Maria starts planning meals for the journey. Takumi says he's crafting new cloaks enchanted with perception, blocking magic to protect his harem from unwanted attention. At the market, Maria tells Sophia she's worried about Takumi never taking care of his health. Sophia agrees and randomly starts glazing Takumi, causing Maria to start teasing her. Sophia starts blushing like a sunder, insisting she's only saying he's a wonderful master. Maria just thinks Sophia has fallen in love with Takumi, even if she won't admit it. Takumi visits the Church of Creation to pray, and Nolan suddenly teleports him to her domain. She assumes he's praying for safe travels, but Takumi reveals he has questions about the goddess of the Church of Divine Light. Named Anat, Nolan tells him she's the only true goddess Mami, though he'll learn about Anat in the future. Takumi asks what happened to the other heroes, but Nolan casually drops that he was sent 1 year before the other heroes were summoned, and that there are still months before they arrive. He asks why she sent him early, but Nolan dodges the question, saying they're running short on time, then reminds him to bring an offering next time and sends him back. Takumi wakes in the church, knowing Nolan deliberately avoided his question. But since he has no intention of meeting the heroes, he figures it doesn't concern him. 10 months in the future, Akura trains with his master, who praises his progress while the other heroes watch. Back in the present, Takumi finishes the new cloaks and presents them to the group. Takumi shares his plan to build a custom carriage. Since borrowing one is inconvenient, Maria mentions they need a monster horse from the guild, but suggests finding unicorns or drake horses in the Forest of Death, which would be far superior. Decide to search for one, and Takumi asks if drake horses are related to dragons. Maria and Sophia explain that they look like regular horses, except for horns and dragon scales. Maple excitedly tells everyone to hurry, and when Sophia notes she seems unusually hyped, Takumi reveals Maple is probably hoping to find a companion similar to herself. Sophia suddenly senses danger and they prepare to fight, but a bushwolf passes by without noticing them. Because of their cloaks, Takumi is thrilled that his creation works. But Sophia removes her cloak, explaining she wants to fight in order to train. On the way, Sophia one-shots a wild boar, and Maria gets excited about the meat. Takumi spots a dead train, so he and Sophia start cutting it up for carriage materials. While everyone is busy packing wood and meat, Maple wanders off and comes across several dead trains. She hears a noise and discovers a wounded drake horse, shoots lightning at her when she approaches. The encounter reminds Maple of meeting Takumi, So she introduces herself and tells the Drake horse that Takumi will heal her. Maple notices two termite monsters approaching, so she captures them with her webs. While the Drake horse assists with lightning attacks, hundreds of termites soon surround them. So Maple builds a thick protective web shell around them. She tries contacting Takumi through their mana link, but can't reach him as she's about to give up. Takumi and the others arrive to rescue them, and Maple cries as she hugs him. She mentions she couldn't contact him, and Sophia explains Maple's thick webs block their mana communication. Takumi says he realized something was wrong when their link dropped, so he followed the trail. Maria notices the unconscious Drake horse, and Maple begs Takumi to heal it. Takumi tries, but the Drake horse's protective shield repels his magic. Sophia notes the remaining termites will soon surround them, so Takumi makes a risky decision to put both the Drake horse and Maple in his pocket dimension. Sophia thinks this is reckless because it'll strain his body, but Takumi insists he'll be fine. He suddenly collapses because his mana is drained too quickly. He tries to drink a mana potion, but he collapses before he can replenish his mana. They rush him home, and Sophia notes that Takumi still hasn't released Maple and the Drake horse, and that if Maple doesn't open the pocket dimension soon, he'll die. Sophia kisses Takumi's hand and traces his mana to asking her to open the pocket dimension so the Drake horse can escape. Maple fears the Drake horse will panic, so Sophia tells her to prepare a protective web shell like before. After setting up, Maria rushes to Papex Company for medicinal herbs, while Sophia stays by Takumi's side. Next morning, Takumi wakes and finds Sophia sleeping at his bedside, and thanks her for saving his life. They head to the garden, where Maple has been caring for the Drake horse, and Takumi introduces himself as Maple's friend, and manages to tame the Drake horse, then uses healing magic on it. His magic helps her regain her strength and fully recover. Takumi thinks about what to name her, and Maple suggests naming her after a leaf just like herself. He decides to call her Camellia because the camellia tree keeps its leaves year-round and blooms with red and white flowers. At a slave trading company in the royal capital, a man interviews a young girl named Riva. When he asks what she can do besides looking like an anime waifu, she promises she'll study hard and prove her usefulness. The man refuses, insisting he needs someone who can be immediately useful. She apologizes to her master at the company, but tries to lift her spirits by saying a good master will show up someday. However, Raven notes he's been feeding her that line for several years now. She remembers being forced to leave her family and become a slave, so they could afford a better life. Meanwhile, Takumi tells Maria and Sophie and he'll head to Gambo's workshop again. But they're not having it because he's barely rested in the past few days, and they're worried he'll collapse. Takumi drops by the guild, where he notices someone complaining to Barack about a dangerous monster spotted in the city. Curious, he asks Hans what's going on, and Hans shows him a sketch based on witness reports. He mentions the creature hasn't caused any damage yet. Takumi reveals he came to register his new pet, so he opens his pocket dimension, but everyone in the guild is angry, because they recognize Maple and Camellia as the exact monsters that have been terrifying the entire city. Meanwhile, Sophia visits Mulan and asks if she has a slave who can help Takumi with his workload, but Mulan admits she can't help them at the moment, promises to contact other companies and compliments Sophia, telling her she's changed a lot since forming a contract with Takumi. Sophia runs into Maria at the market, and they discuss how despite wanting to help Takumi, they're unable to share his burden because they lack the skills he needs. Maria points out that Sophia has started softening her expressions lately, but she still admires her brave side, making Sophia blush like a sunder. They reach the workshop and are shocked to find Takumi passed out at his desk. But Gambo explains he's been working non-stop and finally collapsed from exhaustion. He warns them that if Takumi continues at this pace, his health will seriously deteriorate, and the girls exchange worried looks. Next day, Takumi finishes building the carriage and proudly shows it to the girls, who are stunned by how spacious it is inside. He reveals he enchanted it with spatial expansion magic, getting Diddy's entire mansion inside. They arrive at their destination and meet up with the Leon Fine crew, who'll be escorting them on their journey. Soon after, Godwin and Pepe show up because they want to check out Takumi's carriage from the inside. Once Pepe steps in, he shouts in excitement and he immediately asks Takumi how he built it, offering a massive reward for the blueprints. Godwin steps in to stop Pape from overwhelming Takumi, and admires the carriage himself, and mentions he'd gladly pay 100 platinum coins for it, which makes Takumi rethink his life choices, because that's equal to 1 billion yen. Finally start their journey to the royal capital, and along the way Godwin discusses with his assistant how Takumi has achieved tremendous success in such a short time. Godwin knows Takumi will soon receive even more fame and recognition, but they need to protect him from enemies who want to exploit him. Several months in the future, Akan reads a book about how Anna created humans in her likeness and put all other races beneath them. Then she looks sadly at the collar on the beast. Girl slave the Empire assigned her. Back in the present, Takumi's group finally arrives in the kingdom's capital, and he's relieved they didn't run into any major trouble of monsters. Real points out that whenever monsters did show up, Sophia and the others swiftly wiped them out. After arriving at the inn, Pepek tells Takumi he should build another carriage for the king. But since they have an audience with the king in 5 days, Pepek suggests quickly building it after they return to Bolton. Takumi confidently says he can finish it at the capital before their meeting using the materials he has at hand, but worries about the workspace, which Pape promises to handle. Takumi tells Sophia and Maria about the plan, mentioning they'll visit the Palam Trading Company to find help. Sophia recognizes it as a trustworthy slave trading company, owned by a man named Burton, and she suggests that Takumi find someone who can assist him with production work, as they can help with his specialized alchemy tasks. At the slave trade company, Takumi asked Burton for a slave with magical aptitude, who can help with his alchemy tasks. Maria suddenly realizes she can't find Maple after the giant spider wandered off to explore the building, so Sophia goes after her. But she hears someone scream along the way. She finds Riva terrified at the sight of Maple, but Sophia calmly explains that Maple isn't dangerous and won't hurt her. Sophia notes the alchemy book Riva is clutching, and Riva starts learning out about alchemy. Takumi then calls Sophia to meet the candidate with him. Turns out to be Reva. Reva officially introduces herself and gets excited when she hears that Tokume practices alchemy. But she shuts down, remembering all the previous customers who rejected her for not being useful. Sophia mentions Riva has an alchemy book, and Takumi realizes she and he share similar ideas when it comes to the craft. He decides to test her knowledge by showing her an alchemy circle and asking if she can identify its purpose. And Riva identifies it, but in the way it was used in her region. Riva got depressed thinking she didn't get the answer, but Takumi is impressed that she quickly understood the circle. He invites her to join his group on the spot, and they establish a contract where Reva requests that all her wages be sent back to her family. Takumi pauses at this because if he sends all her wages home, she'll remain a slave forever and never buy her freedom. Sophia steps in and tells Takumi to accept her request, saying it is an honor to work under Takumi, and she'll learn skills that will allow her to earn a proper living. In the future, Riva meets the rest of the group, and everyone gives her a warm welcome, making her feel at home. Meanwhile, back in the Empire, the Emperor gets pissed at the kingdom for rejecting their demands, but Princess Elizabeth advises him against fighting directly. Since they'll soon be summoning their heroes, they should focus on inciting the Divine Light Squadron against the kingdom instead. Takumi shows Riva his alchemy skills by crafting complex materials. While she watches in awe, he tells her she'll soon be able to create similar alchemy circles. But Riva doubts her abilities, so Takumi reassures her by saying she has the most important quality for an alchemist, which is a genuine interest. Takumi finally finishes building the king's carriage. And while he's admiring his work, an old man approaches and asks if he's the owner. Takumi explains he built it for the king, impressing the old man, who casually drops that he is the King Lobo's Barkula, making Takumi nearly wet himself. King mentions this is just an informal meeting, because he wanted to personally thank Takumi for solving their sewage crisis. He explains he'd normally hold a grand celebration in Takumi's honor, but that would draw unwanted attention. Takumi thanks the king for defending him from the Empire, but the king insists it's his duty to protect his people. After the meeting, Takumi's party leaves the palace with their rewards, and the king orders his men to keep everything secret. Once they return to Bolton, Takumi uses his earnings to buy the mansion he'd been renting. Officially, Maria and Sophia refuse to accept their wages, because they insist that Takumi already provides them with everything they need. Takumi argues They should still build their savings for when their contracts eventually end. But Sophia mentions she'll probably outlive him since she's an elf, as she plans to spend the rest of her life protecting his grave. So Maria chimes in saying she wants to be buried right next to him, and Takumi realizes his harem is already arguing over who gets to ride him in the afterlife. Meanwhile in Cydonia, a soldier presents one of Takumi's poop purifiers to Princess Elizabeth, and she's pissed, claiming the blasphemers don't fear an AT's anger. The soldier mentions that the Divine Light Squadron is eager to eradicate the source of evil, and she agrees that they won't tolerate those who threaten their church's dignity and need to eliminate the threat as quickly as possible. Back in Bolton, Reva tells Takumi she wants to register as an adventurer. To raise her mana, support his alchemy work better. He takes her to the guild, where she receives her adventurer card and thanks Hans for helping her send money home. Hans then asks if Takumi has decided on a party name, since his party is fairly top class. Takumi admits he's not aiming to become a serious adventurer, points out that the group lacks proper rule divisions, and is not even a frontline fighter like normal adventure parties. Barak over here is and offers to train Takumi, insisting that an adventurer's body is their greatest weapon. Barak proceeds to toss Takumi around like a rag doll, while asking if he's thought of a party name yet. But Takumi is too busy getting suplexed to answer. After the brutal session, Takumi asked the girls to help him come up with a name, before Barak takes him out. Maria and Reva propose several options that Takumi rejects, while Sophia is just sitting in a corner, ready to off Barak for pummeling Takumi. Takumi quickly calms Sophia down, explaining that Barak was only training him, not trying to eliminate him 10 months in the future. Akira and Akane watch as Yamato trains in the Empire. While Akira criticizes his fighting style as useless in real combat, Akane asks if his own style will work instead. And Akira says he's built different because he's a hero. But Akane reminds him that they're all heroes. Akira then asks Akane to join him in a post-training workout session. But Akane flatly refuses. Akane continues reading about Anat, learning that unlike the Church of Divine Light, who preach human supremacy, the Church of Creation teaches that all races are Nolan's offspring. She then wonders why they were summoned by the Church, which claimed they wanted world peace. Back in the present, Takumi gifts Reva a magical ring and staff to help in her adventures. Maple gets jealous watching Takumi give Reva his wooden staff, so he quickly hands her a new weapon that won't interfere with her thread abilities. A few days later, Takumi trains with Barak again, and when his name suggestions still suck, Barak tosses him around some more. Takumi worries Sophia might snap and attack Barak, but instead, she points out his defense is lacking and begins coaching him herself. After training, Takumi visits the guild, where Hans mentions an escort mission for the Puppet Company. Takumi asks how long it would take, and Barak estimates only 4 days, thanks to Takumi's upgraded carriage. Takumi tries to pass the quest to the Leon Fine crew, but they're busy, so he reluctantly accepts. During the journey, Papek's employee thanks Takumi for escorting him and mentions he needs to buy milk for Papek's company. They stop the carriage when Takumi spots monsters, but Sophia explains it's just a scuffle between goblins and bush wolves. That Camellia ends instantly with a lightning strike. They arrive at the town of Kilbis and enjoy warm cream stew, making Takumi nostalgic for his old world. He tells Sophia they should buy milk and cheese before leaving, and she notes the market stays open at night. Takumi asks if rice exists in this world, and Maria says she saw it once in the royal capital, making Takumi depressed that he missed his chance. Sophia asks why he wanted rice so badly, which he brushes off as just curiosity. This prompts Takumi to ask if she ever feels nostalgic after being away from her home so long, and Sophia explains she's truly happy now. She adds that although she lived like a caged bird before, Takumi removed her curse and gave her wings to fly, leaving her no need to look upon the past. Takumi realizes Nolan also gave him wings by bringing him to this world, so he names the party Wings of Nolan. 2 nights later, after completing their quest and returning to Bolton, Takumi wakes up to find the mansion filled with paralysis poison. He sees 2 masked attackers restraining the girls, but when they try to unalive him, Maple intervenes and helps him take them down. He heals everyone, and Maria asks why the poison didn't affect him. Takumi explains that both he and Maple are resistant to poison and paralysis. When Maria asks about the others outside, they find out Maple has already captured several more attackers. With her webs, Sophia notes the attackers are well trained. So Takumi tells her to get Barack. Barack arrives to assess the situation and tells Takumi to report the incident to Godwin, because this is far more serious than a random attack. The next day, Takumi learns the attackers belong to the Divine Light Squadron, an extremist group that executes anyone who defies their church's teachings. Godwin explains that the Cydonia Empire ordered the attack because Takumi's purification devices have caused them massive financial losses. Takumi considers hiding in another nation, but Godwin insists he's safer in Bolton, since everyone there supports him. Barack adds that Takumi only needs to worry about his safety during adventures. When Takumi suggests taking a break, Barack immediately shuts it down. He explains their party is one of the strongest, so disappearing will cause problems, and Sophia promises they'll keep him safe. While Barack's training makes him stronger, Takumi goes to the guild to register their new party name, but Hans warns that there's a large bounty on his head, so he needs to stay alert. Takumi informs Sophia and the others about the rumors, and they all agree to stay more cautious. He also mentions that aside from guards posted around the mansion, they'll need extra defenses. He decides on a magical barrier that stops anyone who isn't registered. Riva offers to help him set it up, and Sophia suggests they also recruit a proper attacker or tank for the group. The girls say it shouldn't be because they all prefer his S rank to buffs, leaving Takumi wondering where to find someone like that. Sophia mentions some solo adventurers could work, but says trust would be an issue. She suggests checking the Mulan Trading Company. Takumi agrees that someone bound by contract would be safest, and the girls remind him they would still trust him, even without their contracts. That night, royal knights guard the mansion while the girls sleep, and Sophia notices Takumi still working in the workshop. The next morning, Rava helps him with alchemy, while Sophia helps engrave magical circles on metal shields. Meanwhile, Maple and Camellia play with a toy golem. Rava suggests Takumi should get a golem of his own, but he explains his mana manipulation skill isn't high enough to control one. Once he activates the mansion's barrier, he receives a spell control skill and mentions that if he can raise it, he might eventually create a golem's control core. Meanwhile, in the Cydonia Empire, the Emperor learns the attack on Takumi failed, and realizes their involvement has been exposed. Princess Elizabeth advises him to ignore the matter for now, and focus on summoning the heroes. The Emperor asks about progress, and a researcher named Homer explains they couldn't analyze the magic circle found in the ruins, but can still activate the summoning by deciphering ancient texts. He estimates they'll gather enough mana for the ritual in 2 to 3 months back. In Bolton, Takumi practices controlling a golem using a magic stone, but he struggles with it. Maple asks why he even wants when he already has her and the others, and Takumi explains they might get attacked again, so they need extra defenses. Maple asks if he can simply tame one instead, and Takumi realizes that might actually work. Sophia mentions iron golems appear in the ancient dungeon near Horus, surprising Takumi because he's never been to a dungeon before. They suggest they explore it, but Sophia warns that it would be dangerous without a proper tank. Takumi takes them to the ruins anyway, and they soon find a massive iron golem standing over 3 meters tall. Sophia says they're lucky to find one, but explains they need to strike its control core to defeat it. Though that would make it useless to them, the golem suddenly reacts to their presence, scaring everyone. Sophia tells them to retreat, since it's too dangerous, but Takumi insists it could become a powerful ally. He charges forward and Sophia orders the others to cover him. But Takumi tells them not to attack, because he senses a bond forming between him and the golem. The girls are amazed at his bravery, but he's actually struggling not to piss his pants. He's only approaching because he senses no hostility from the creature. He realizes the golem was guarding ruins connected to Nolan, which is why it isn't attacking him. Takumi successfully tames the golem, shocking everyone, and named it Titan because of its size. Maple notices Titan trying to communicate something, and Takumi realizes the golem needs a more versatile body to function properly. Since Titan is too large to bring into the city, Takumi stores it inside his pocket dimension. However, Titan unexpectedly shrinks into a smaller humanoid form. Maple asks Takumi to help them communicate with Titan better, and he promises to do his best. Several months in the future, Akane sees Yamato and Akira bullying soldiers and flirting recklessly with women. When she tries to correct them, they tell her to mind her business. He warns their behavior is unacceptable, but they ignore her and walk away. Back in the present, Takumi meets with the girls and announces he wants to dissolve their contracts because staying with him puts their lives in danger. The room falls silent. Maria steps forward and tells him he'll have to go through her if he wants to cancel anything. She demands to know why. He always prioritizes their safety over his own, then reminds him they are the wings of Milan, and he can't fly with broken wings. Seeing their determination, Takumi realizes dissolving the contracts was a mistake, and they all promise to remain by his side no matter what. Takumi finally finishes constructing a new body for Titan. Maple is thrilled that the golem can now communicate properly. Takumi explains Titan's equipment, a mace, a shield, and multiple tools, along with the ability to transform back into its massive, original form during battle. Meanwhile, in the divine realm, Nolan watches Takumi and thinks he's getting a bit too adventurous. Her assistant mentions faint traces of Inat's existence beginning to surface, which shocks Nolan, since Inat should not exist. Ellen explains years of worship within the Church of Divine Light may have slowly created a spiritual being, and warns it will soon become an evil spirit, capable of triggering a war in the human world. Ellen agrees, but states she cannot interfere directly, which is why she sent Takumi to the human world in the first place. A year ago, Bolton was a deserted city, where residents were forced to leave their homes due to a noble's mismanagement. A girl named Minnie lived there, and she lost her husband because he couldn't receive proper medical treatment. Back in the present, Godwin learns that over 1,000 citizens have been driven from their village, and another lord named Rockford took them in temporarily. However, he can't keep sheltering them, so he needs Godwin's help in finding them a new home. Godwin notes they need enough space to accommodate everyone, and there's only one viable area, but it's filled with monsters, so developing it will be difficult. Meanwhile, Takumi tells his group they should try tackling a dungeon. So they head to the second most challenging, a rank dungeon called the Forest of the Beast. King Takumi is surprised to find there's a sky and a massive forest underground. Even though they're in a dungeon, his party takes care of all the monsters they encounter, with Maple's help, since she detects enemies before they even get close. Titan handles all the strong monster attacks, allowing them to clear floors quickly, while collecting treasures along the way. After a full day, they finally reach the last floor and everyone gets excited. However, Takumi accidentally steps on a trap that triggers a giant rolling ball to chase them. They jump into a narrow passage to escape, and as they continue forward, Maple senses a powerful presence ahead. They prepare to fight, but when they see it's an S-ranked Earth Dragon, Maria and Riva completely freak out, while Takumi mutters he should have brought the larger Titan form, tells Maple and Titan to hold the dragon's tail while everyone else attacks, but they realize it's still alive after their assault, and it sends Titan flying into a wall. Sophia tells Takumi about the dragon's weak spot, so he summons Camellia, who charges at its flank. Takumi thinks it's his chance to finish it, but he realizes he might get burned if he gets too close. He enchants his sword with lightning and hurls it straight into the dragon's mouth, unaliving it instantly. Camellia evolves into a dragon horse after the battle, and Takumi finds a rare dragon part, immediately thinking about what he can craft with amusing Sophia with his nerd rise after returning from the dungeon. Godwin summons Takumi and asks if he knows about the undeveloped land in the south. Talk whom he mentions he's heard. It's filled with monsters, which is why even neighboring nations avoid it. Godwin explains the Triaria kingdom tried to invade it once, but the invasion failed so badly it led to their decline. Asks Takumi if he could build a village on that land, referencing his impressive development work at the village of Bordeaux. Sophia immediately reminds Godwin about the danger to Takumi's life, but Godwin insists he has no other option and needs Takumi's help. Takumi asks why they need the village so urgently. Godwin explains how villagers became refugees after being betrayed by corrupt nobles, so he wants to build them a proper home. He admits that's just one of his reasons, and Sophia starts to ask about the others, but Takumi stops her. He remembers how people helped him when he first arrived in this world, so he decides to help the refugees, which makes Godwin genuinely grateful. Hakuti turns down the offer to be escorted by knights, and the wings of Nolan set out on their mission to build a new town from scratch. They arrive at the undeveloped land and immediately start building walls, using earth magic working together to shape the terrain and create a defensible perimeter. They continue using their combined magic to develop the area, and within days they complete the basic infrastructure. Takumi sends Sophia to request the transfer of refugees, which shocks Godwin because they only started working 10 days ago. Refugees are ordered to move to the southern frontier, but they're terrified thinking it's still crawling with monsters. When they arrive, they're stunned to find a massive wall already surrounding the village, and Takumi greets them warmly, explaining he built the wall to protect them from monster threats. He shows them around and reveals he's constructed houses for both the refugees and the nobles who will govern them, plus a barracks for knights will be stationed there. One of the knights, named Dorn, is stunned and asks if Takumi used magic to build everything. So Takumi admits he did, but notes the village isn't finished yet. The villagers are thrilled with their new home. Sophia notices Money looking depressed in the corner. She approaches and asks if Money is alone, and Money explains that her husband passed away in their old village. Sophia tells her that Takumi is looking for helpers, and suggests she could work for him, but Money immediately rejects the offer because she doesn't trust nobles. Arya tries to convince her, but Takumi gives Moni more time to think about it. Moni starts to feel guilty and thinks she can't stay in the village after refusing to work for Takumi, so she decides to leave. She wanders into the forest, but the moment she hears a monster roar, she instantly regrets her decision. Maple alerts Takumi about the incoming monster threat, and everyone assumes they'll need to fight. But they're shocked when they see it's just Titan doing patrols. Takumi tells Dorn to raise the drawbridges to protect the villagers, but they realize Moni is trapped outside the walls. Everyone starts searching for her, and they learn she was last seen heading into the forest. So Takumi immediately decides to go rescue her. Manny realizes she's surrounded by wolves and thinks she's about to die. But Takumi makes a main character entrance, quickly taking care of the wolves. Then Manny warns him that more monsters will arrive soon, but Takumi calmly assures her it won't be a problem. His party joins them moments later, and Sophia reports they've already dealt with all the nearby monsters. Manny notices a small wound on Takumi's arm, so she quickly wraps it up, and he thanks her for the help. She thanks him for saving her life, and Takumi tells her he won't allow anyone to get hurt in their village, which makes Money realize he's nothing like the corrupt nobles she's dealt with before. She nervously asks if she can still become his maid, and Takumi happily welcomes her to the group. Doreen meets with Godwin later and tells him about Takumi's incredible progress with the town development, which genuinely impresses Godwin. However, news of the overnight construction also travels to the Cydonia Empire, and they feel threatened. When they learn the knights guarding the fortress are from Bolton, they realize Takumi is behind the rapid construction, and Princess Elizabeth insists they can't allow the kingdom to do as they please any longer. The Empire begins their summoning ritual, which causes a massive mana disturbance that ripples throughout the entire continent. Takumi senses it and immediately realizes the other heroes have finally arrived in this world, and that things are about to get real. 3 months later, Nolan watches events unfold from above. She's impressed the heroes of Cydonia have already reached a rank. Princess Elizabeth announces it's time to introduce the heroes to other nations, and Akira and Yamato are hyped, thinking they're destined to save the world. Kane isn't particularly interested, but plays along meanwhile. The village Takumi built is now officially known as Wedge Fort, and the villagers have learned from Bolton's craftsmen, so they're now producing their own weapons and tools. Akumi walks through the village and realizes it's starting to prosper. Maple shows Sophia bush lizard she found, and Sophia mentions she's never seen that species before in this area. Thinking the monsters in the region are getting stronger, she reports it to the others. Sophia explains the monsters still aren't a direct threat to Wedgeford, so there's no need to wipe them out completely. She believes monsters from nearby habitats are moving closer because of the mana disturbance they felt 3 months ago during the hero summoning. Soon after, Dorn approaches Takumi and mentions that Barak has a quest for him. And he also reveals that everyone in Bolton is talking about the heroes of Cydonia. Takumi asks if the heroes appeared 3 months ago, and Dorn is surprised that Takumi figured it out. So everyone realizes the heroes were responsible for the mana disturbance. That evening, Takumi and his friends discuss the heroes over dinner, and Maria suggests that Nolan send them to guide Sidonia toward the right path. Takumi knows the Empire used forbidden magic to summon them, but he hopes they're good people who help correct Sidonia's misguided policies. As the heroes are preparing to leave the Empire, the other summoned dudes Mobisa Kani's slave Lulu, trying to board their carriage. They complain that Lulu doesn't deserve to ride with them, but Akane explains that she is her attendant, and tells her to join them at the Adventurers Guild. Hans tells Takumi the heroes have dark hair and black eyes, which makes Takumi wonder if they're also from his world. Hans mentions Pape wants to hire Takumi to escort the heroes to the royal capital, and Takumi decides to accept the quest. Curious to meet them, Takumi returns home, and Moni asks if she can join them on the escort mission, because she doesn't want to be left alone in the mansion. Takumi explains that escort missions can be dangerous, but the girls try to convince him to let Moni come along, and when she uses her stepmommy Riz on him, he caves in immediately. Meanwhile, as the summoned heroes ride a carriage to the royal capital of Barkula, Akura mentions there are elves in the royal capital, and he's already planning to buy them like Pokemon cards. Yamada notes they're already past level 30, and thinks it's only a matter of time before they become the strongest adventurers in the world. Kane, however, thinks she needs to do something to make things right, and her instincts tell her this expedition is her only chance to act. Back with Takumi, the guild receptionist informs him they've completed enough quests to rank up. Both he and Sophia officially reach a rank. Just then, the heroes suddenly burst into the guild and tell everyone to get out of their way. An adventurer asks if they're newbies who don't know how things work, but Akura punches the guy for talking to him. Akira notices the girls in Takumi's party and demands to buy them, but Takumi flatly refuses and tells the heroes to leave. Akira and Yamato get pissed and try to attack Takumi, but he effortlessly breaks Akira's Tenu Excalibur in half and takes Yamato down with ease. Akira can't believe his holy sword was just destroyed, but Takumi knows it's just an ordinary sword made from magic iron. Akira threatens Takumi that things won't end well for him, but Takumi calmly reminds him they're still in an adventurers guild. So the heroes back off. Akane apologizes for their behavior and asks for Takumi's name. So he introduces himself. She recognizes his name immediately because her revelation skill told her to seek him out. But Takumi stops her from saying more and whispers to her to meet him at his lakeside hotel later. At the hotel, Takumi explains to the others that he met the heroes, and Sophia comments that they're terrible people, though Akane seems different from the other two. Hakumi admits he told Akane about their hotel, but now he realizes he was careless and worries his harem will off her before she reaches his room. That night, Akane runs away with Lulu while guards from Sidonia chase after them. But Sophia appears out of nowhere and knocks the guards out cold, and tells Akane to head straight to the hotel. Akane meets up with Takumi's group, and Takumi reveals he's also from her world. He explains that he's here because of the same summoning spell that brought the other heroes. The girls are shocked to hear this, so Takumi decides to tell them everything, but ask them to keep it secret. We cut to Akira and Yamada meeting with a priest, and they report that Akane ran away with Lulu. They mention they always found Akane suspicious, and the priest agrees. They should return to Sidonia and review their plans. Back with Takumi's group, they realize Takumi is an emissary of Nolan, and Akane admits he thinks Sidonia is the villain, since they use forbidden magic to summon heroes against the goddess's will. Takumi agrees and explains he believes Sidonia is planning to go to war with other nations, using the heroes to rally public support and incite the masses. He asks Akane about Akira and Yamato, and she reveals they changed drastically since being summoned. She mentions she didn't trust Sidonia from the start, so she used purification magic on all the food they gave her. But Akira and Yamato can't use purification magic because they focused entirely on sword training. Takumi realizes Sidonia has been drugging their food to brainwash them, which explains their aggressive behavior and complete loyalty to the Empire. Akane suddenly begs Takumi to save her because she doesn't want to return to the Empire. Takumi notices Lulu's slave collar. Hakone explains she hates the collar because it's proof that Lulu is her slave. so Takumi uses his magic to remove it. Instantly Lulu panics, thinking Akane will abandon her now that she's free. But Akane quickly reassures her they'll stay together as friends, not master and slave. Takumi tells them they'll go to his mansion in Bolton, where they'll be safe, and Akane worries about causing him trouble, but Takumi insists he wants to help since they're from the same world. They arrive at his mansion in Bolton, and Moria prepares a warm bowl of cream soup stew for Akane and Lulu. They taste it and Akane suddenly starts crying, which makes Maria panic, thinking her cooking is terrible. Akane quickly explains that the food is incredibly delicious, and Takumi realizes she hasn't been able to relax since being summoned. Because she never trusted Sidonia, this is the first time she's tasted something from home in this world, and the emotions overwhelm her. Meanwhile, a knight guarding Wedge Fort notices a massive monster stampede, heading straight for the village. So he immediately alerts everyone to send a messenger to Bolton for reinforcements that evening. Takumi gathers the girls and tells them he's going to dissolve his contracts with them, which upsets everyone instantly. I think he's trying to abandon them again, but Takumi explains they'll still be together as a family, just without the magical contracts binding them. He notes he's been with them for a long time, and they've already formed a bond, strong enough that contracts aren't necessary anymore. He asked them to keep supporting him as his partners instead of his slaves, and with that, he dispels all their contracts, telling them he's genuinely happy to have them around. Takumi then heads to his workshop and starts crafting 2 holy swords, pouring all his focus into the work. Suddenly he receives an emergency notification from the guild, which orders all high-ranking adventurers to gather immediately, because there's a crisis at Wedgeford. Takumi meets up with the Lion Fang crew and he asks what's happening. So Barak reveals that a massive horde of monsters is attacking Wedgeford. They learn that the other adventurer parties are busy with their own quests, so they're the only ones available to respond. Hans mentions another party will join them soon, and moments later, the Crimson Rose party arrives. Takumi meets their leader Merilda, who mentions she's heard the rumors about the wings of Nolan and is curious to see them in action. The Lion Fang members recognize her reputation, and Brock tells everyone they need to clear a path for Dorn, who will lead a squad of knights to reinforce the fort. Takumi decides to leave Akane and Lulu behind for their safety, and orders Titan to guard them while he completes the quest with his team. Before leaving, he gives Sophia the holy sword Amaterasu, explaining he crafted it using materials from the dungeon. He shows her the second sword, Tsukiyomi, and explains that Amaterasu deals physical damage, while Tsukiyomi inflicts mental damage, and they can chain attacks together when used in combination. Group reaches Wedge Fort and realizes it's surrounded by monsters, so they jump in action and start cutting through the horde. The guards spot Takumi approaching, so they quickly lower the drawbridge, and his party rushes in, while wiping out the monsters that made it past the wall. The villagers are relieved to see Takumi arrive, and he orders Raven and Money to tend to the wounded. He joins the other adventurers on the battlefield, but they suddenly notice the monsters retreating, which strikes everyone as strange. Takumi points out that the monsters' movements seem coordinated, like they're following orders, and he suggests the horde has a leader controlling them. The other adventurers think that's impossible, but Takumi explains the mana disturbance could have caused certain monsters to evolve and gain intelligence. Meanwhile, back in Sidonia, the Empire learns about the monster attack, and they're thrilled, hoping the creatures will destroy the kingdom of Barkula. The Emperor thinks they should take advantage of the situation and prepare to invade, but Princess Elizabeth suggests attacking the kingdom of Salamander. Instead, she explains that Salamander is an ally of Barkula, and if they use the heroes to crush it first, Barkula won't be able to call for reinforcements in the future. Back at Wedge Fort, Riva finishes treating the wounded and brings food to Sophia. But Sophia reveals she's worried about Takumi. Because he's been giving all their healing potions to injured villagers, Sophia decides to talk to him, and reminds him that the monsters will attack again soon, so he should save potions for himself. Takumi insists he can avoid getting injured, so he won't need them. And Sophia is reminded just how selfless he truly is. She's more determined than ever to protect him no matter what happens. They spot another wave of monsters approaching, and the adventurers decide to meet them outside the gate. They realize they're vastly outnumbered, but the mages blast the horde with powerful spells, while the warriors cut them down. The groups decide to split up, since monsters are coming from multiple directions, and Sophia uses a tornado spell to blow dozens of them away. Takumi warns her she's advancing too quickly, tells her to slow down so they don't get separated. The monsters suddenly retreat again, and everyone notices something massive approaching. The final boss emerges as a two-headed dragon, devours smaller monsters in its path, and immediately targets Sophia with devastating attacks. Takumi realizes this is the leader controlling the monster horde, and he yells that they should brought Titan's full form with them. The dragon starts attacking everyone, so Sophia uses her magic to draw its attention away from the others. She tries to dodge its attacks, but one of the dragon's heads breathes fire, and she gets caught in the flames, badly burning her. The dragon prepares to finish her Maria, off. Riva, and Moni blasted with their combined spells, giving Sophia a chance to recover. She tosses her sword to Takumi, who catches it and uses it to unleash a wind vortex attack on the dragon, pours all his remaining mana into Tsukuyomi, and slashes the dragon clean in half with a single powerful strike. Takumi immediately heals Sophia and scolds her for being so reckless, asking why she put herself in such danger. Sophia tells him she just wanted to protect him, but Takumi gets angry, saying she could have died, and that her life isn't worthless, like she seems to think. The other adventurers report that the remaining monsters have been wiped out, but Takumi suddenly collapses from mana exhaustion. When he wakes up later back at the fort, everyone is relieved he's okay, and Marilda compliments Sophia by telling her Takumi is amazing, which makes her happy. Several days later, they return to Bolton after helping the village rebuild. Meanwhile, Akira and Yamato are slaughtering villagers in Salamander, claiming they're doing just fine without Akane around. They decide they want more action, so they end up massacring the entire village. That evening, Takumi and his friends return home and enjoy a meal together, but they notice Sophia is acting strangely and seems distant. Girls suspect it's because of Takumi, so they make him talk to her privately. He apologizes for yelling at her, but Sophia tells him she's willing to sacrifice her life to protect him because that's her duty. Takumi tells her he wants to spend his entire life with her, so he doesn't want her to throw hers away for him. Then he asks her to promise she'll stay by his side. Sophia promises she will, and just as they are about to develop a plot, Akane ruins the moment, claiming that the food is ready. A few days later, Godwin allows Akane and Lulu to stay permanently at Takumi's mansion, but he informs them that the heroes massacred an entire village in Salamander. Leaving no one alive, Akane blames herself, thinking she could have prevented the massacre if she had stayed with them, so she determines to stop Akira and Yamato. The next time they cross paths, after that, Takumi visits a church and prays before Nolan's statue, and she suddenly teleports him to her domain. Asked why she summoned him a year before the other heroes arrived, thinking she must have had a specific plan, Nolan tells him his fate is in his own hands, and Takumi says he'll protect everyone important to him, no matter what happens. He mentioned that he genuinely enjoys his life as an alchemist, because he can create anything he wants. He'd also presents her with sweets as an offering, making her smile deep down. Nolan knows Takumi has a rough path ahead of him, because he's the only one who can save the world from the chaos the heroes will bring, but she believes in him and knows he'll become the greatest alchemist of all time. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed until now, comment down below sweet cake, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see unplotted recaps. Don't forget to check out the next video. It might just be your new favorite anime recap.